Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Solminod show with Sonia. We're so glad that you're here with us today. We have a very special guest that I would like to introduce to you. So we'll go ahead and get started there in just a moment. I hope that you're all faring well, amid this COVID crisis and this forced pause that we've been in. I hope that you've been able to spend extra time with your family or your loved ones and are making it a positive situation out of something that has definitely been a challenge for our country. So just remember that we need you all to continue to be engaged. Don't draw back, don't pull away, and continue to stay plugged in with your community. And we love you, and we need each and every one of you. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our special guest to you today. We have Linda Garrett-Johnson here with us today. She is running for City Council right here in Apple Valley, Minnesota. And I asked her if I can have the opportunity to introduce her to the community and interview her today here on the show. So Linda, welcome to the Solminod Show with Sonia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you. You know, my husband's from Jersey, and when you and I met earlier this summer, as you were one of the speakers at one of my events, I had realized that you too were from the Northeast. You're from the New York area?
Yes, I am. I'm from New York City, from right in Manhattan.
Oh, right there. Okay, right in Manhattan. Well, we're so glad to have you here in Apple Valley. How long have you lived here in Apple Valley?
Well, I've lived here since 1986. I moved here at that time with my family, my two children, and my mom. My mom came out as well. And so, yeah, I was married at the time. And yeah, we came from New York together, and we thought Minnesota would be a great place to raise our family. My sister-in-law lives out here, and so we had come out to visit, and we saw what Minnesota looked like and what it had to offer. So we were excited and settled down here.
Wonderful. And you are running for City Council right here in Apple Valley.
Yes.
I would like to have you share with our viewers a little bit, first of all, about your background. Just personally, you grew up in New York City, and I understand that you've had some unique experiences. You are a mighty woman, a very strong woman, and there were even some challenges there in New York. And why don't you just share with our viewers just a bit about your background as a young girl and a teenager in high school even?
Sure, yeah. So growing up in New York, I grew up in the projects in Manhattan. And I remember my mother said to my brother and I that if we wanted to go to Catholic school, that we wouldn't be able to afford to send us there. So both of us decided that we would get jobs, and we did, and we put ourselves through high school. So that was something that I did early on. Growing up, and I was just writing a little bit about that experience this morning, and realized that even as a young teenager, while I was working my way through high school, I became the supervisor of the part-time employees at the organization I was working for at the time. It was almost like a Walgreens or a Target kind of a situation, but it was in New York, and I became the supervisor of the part-time folks. So yeah, I was very industrious.
Very industrious and a leader even at such a young age.
Yes, yes. And you know, kind of when you talk about being a leader, it made me think about the first protest march I ever led was out of high school. So
oh, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and they wouldn't allow us to wear pants underneath our uniforms. It got kind of cold, you know, going on the subways to and from school. And so several of us decided that we were going to protest that and in high school. So we worked with another nonprofit organization, and we marched around the school, and we had our signs. And it was really just about wanting to wear pants underneath our uniform. So that was my very first encounter in high school with speaking up, speaking my voice.
Well, and good for you. I would love to see footage of that or photographs if you ever come across any. I'd love to see those. Good for you. Good for you. And from what I understand, that's really who you are today. Is you're standing up for people, and you're standing up for what is right and for what is just. Can you tell us a little bit more of the timeline of your serving here in Minnesota in the different areas in your life?
Sure. So when I first moved to Minnesota, I was living in St. Paul, and I became involved in the district planning council that they had in the city that I was living in. Also, one of the neighborhood organizations, nonprofits, I became involved in that. And both of them were looking at either how the city planned its 10 to 20-year planning, as well as the nonprofit looked at housing and sustainable housing in that particular part of the city. So I got very much involved in that. I've also helped people on their political campaigns, so I got a little bit of a taste of how that works. And then also I began to use my voice to get appointed to statewide advisory committees and councils, and began to get involved in nonprofit organizations. I was involved in like the Minnesota Women's Foundation several years ago. And I've also began to do some nonprofit consulting when I worked for the Wilder Foundation many years back. And so I did some nonprofit consulting with community-based organizations, cities, counties, states, things like that. So a lot of that. And then fast forward to when I moved to Apple Valley, started to get involved. I wanted to kind of find out what was the local, how do people get involved in Apple Valley? And one of the things that I noticed was that you really didn't know how to get involved in anything in Apple Valley. It seemed to be fairly closed. Whereas when living in St. Paul, I was able to, you could really find out how do you get involved, what are the connecting points. You had conversations with your city council person that represented you. The community was very engaged in the planning process. But when I fast forward and move here, it was really hard to figure out how do things happen. So that's when I really decided that I wanted to become a community builder in Apple Valley, to help be that bridge, to help people understand how to find their voice and how to get involved in the city.
And I look forward to seeing you in that role, as I'm speaking things that are not as if they were a councilwoman. And I just know that you're going to be so successful in locking arms with other community leaders here. And I know that you've mentioned before that you have such a desire to engage the community. Like you were saying, it was kind of difficult to find out how to get involved, but you really have a heart for engaging the community and having everybody come together and have open, honest dialogue.
I do. And so one of the things I didn't mention too was even as I started living here, I began to find out how other cities around us were doing community dialogue and community engagement. And so last year, I became involved in co-facilitating community conversations on race, for example, in the cities of Burnsville and Savage and in Eagan. And those conversations were at a time when people were concerned about policing, and they wanted to and some people were fearing for their safety, and not understanding how to have a dialogue with even with the police department or people in their community. But what was beautiful about it was that we took a very difficult, challenging conversation, and we were able to have that conversation together to the point where those three cities are continuing those dialogues, and they're continuing to develop action plans together. And I really look forward to them actually doing something meaningful with those conversations. So, you can really have a community conversation on a very difficult topic that leads to positive change and action in the community. And that's what I want to see happen here in Apple Valley.
Certainly. And Linda, boy, if we have ever been in a time, this is certainly a time that we need strong leadership in regards to race relations. Do we have much diversity on the current city council here? I have some here in my notes that we have some folks that have been on city council for 2 to 3 decades, and that we are lacking diversity. Is this correct?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, it is. And that leaves us at a real disadvantage. It's a gap for us as a city, because if you don't have that diverse lived experience, if you don't have that background and knowledge, it's hard then when you're planning for the future of the city and for the future residents to do that planning appropriately and effectively. The one thing that I've looked at recently is the Metropolitan Council, which is a regional planning council for the Twin Cities. and we have a representative on the Metropolitan Council as well in our area. What they're projecting is in the next 20 to 25 years for their 2020, no, the 2040 and the 2050 plan, respectively. They're projecting that the people of color are going to significantly increase in Dakota County. And so they're asking cities like Apple Valley to plan accordingly for that increase in people of color, of residents of color, so that they have opportunities, that they've planned that out for the city. And so it's going to be hard for us to do that if we don't have anyone on the council that can be that voice, that can speak to that diversity.
Certainly, I agree. I think it's so important. I've always been a firm believer in, I believe that, you know, our police force and law enforcement and those in leadership in our communities should represent the diversity within those communities. And so I think that as well that this is so important that we have this in our city council here in Apple Valley. And you know, of course, the population has changed tremendously from 30 years ago and 20 years ago. Mm-hmm.
It has dramatically, and we need to be planning accordingly. The interesting thing too is that I just found out as I've been doing some research on the council is that they had a 2030 plan, which is the plan for, you know, zoning and housing and parks and recs. They had a 2030 plan. They've just recently, from what I can see, approved a 2040 plan. But again, I don't know when why we weren't engaged as residents in looking at that 2040 plan. And that, so when I say that, for me, I want to be a community builder and I want to make sure that the residents of Apple Valley are engaged. To me, the residents of Apple Valley should have been a part of reviewing that 2040 plan before it was approved. And when I say reviewing it, what I mean is that in the city that I lived in before, when I lived in St. Paul, how they would do their 10-year planning or their 20-year planning, we would get in a room together for the weekend, sometimes even for a week, depending upon, you know, the length of the plan. We would have the plan in front of us. There'd be flip chart paper. That was before there was computers and things like that, you know, you put on the wall, but there'd be flip chart paper and post-it notes, and we'd all go around and we'd be with the planning department and we would be with our city council person. So we would all be engaged together in looking at the potential plan, and we would learn from the planning department and from the city council about zoning and the possibilities, and we would envision together what the community could look like. And there would be a give and take. And we didn't always get as residents what we wanted, but what we did get was we got an understanding of what the possibilities were, what we could do, what we couldn't do, why something couldn't be done, if something required a zoning change. We began to understand that, and I call it co-creating it, plan together. And then the city council would come back, you know, after, you know, they would make some changes, and the city council would come back and they would then share it again with the residents in the community. And then they would come up with the final plan. But you felt like as a resident that you had a say, that you were part of that. The way that we do things here in Apple Valley is really arcane, in that, that we see community engagement as the council sitting behind the dais and us coming to a podium with a microphone in front of us. And the plan is already out there, and by that time the plan is pretty much set in stone, and there's not a lot of give and take. There may not be, depending upon the timeline, there may not be a lot of time to make changes, you know, to the plan. You don't really get a sense of why something was done. It's really hard in that kind of setting, and you don't really feel like you're a part of the planning, you know. So what I would love to do as a city council member is to bring a different model of community engagement to the city council, one that maybe they don't know how to do, maybe they've never understood how to do. And again, being there for a long time, they may not be aware of other ways to do city planning, you know? So
Sure.
I would love to be able to bring another methodology, another process. My background is in process improvement, you know, another methodology to them, help them to understand how to do community engagement so that they really are engaging the community, because the city council is the voice of the residents or the voice of the city. And you can't be that voice if you're not hearing from the residents, from the city.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And that has been your heart. It's what I keep hearing over and over is your heart to serve the people and your heart to involve the people so
Yes.
that it truly is a collective effort and that you want to hear the people, you want to listen to the people, you want to hear their hearts and
And
be able
I
to.
want to educate as well, because a lot of times people are upset, but they don't know why something can't happen. But if you
Sure.
educate them and explain, and maybe it's a zoning
Mhm.
change, or maybe it's a law, an ordinance that needs to be changed. But you know, I want to educate people so that they're not frustrated.
Sure, open, honest dialogue,
Yes.
which we really could use that right now in America. Yes, and you know, there's another area too that that I know that we've talked about that where you want to raise awareness of, and I know that this is something that is near and dear to your heart. I understand that you're still looking for this information, but can you share with our viewers the truth of the matter that we do actually have a homelessness issue right here in Apple Valley, Minnesota?
Yes, so it is something that it is near and dear to my heart. And so what I have been doing recently is trying to collect information. And I have gone out to folks in Dakota County. They are pulling this data together for me. But we do have a homeless situation. And what I'm trying to understand specifically is how many people are on the verge of losing their apartment or their home due to foreclosure because of COVID-19 specifically. You know, now it's not that we don't want to look at people who have been on that verge, not because of COVID. But I specifically want to know with COVID, because what I have been told by one nonprofit organization that serves Dakota County is that they're anticipating a potential tsunami of homelessness. And what I mean by that is that currently there's a moratorium on not evicting or having people go into foreclosure for not paying their rent or their mortgage. There's a current moratorium on that. I've been told that when that lifts, that people could potentially be in a situation of 5 to 6 months behind in their rent or mortgage.
Mm,
And I don't know how many people can all of a sudden come up with 5 to 6 months rent or mortgage. When you're
right.
talking about some rents are, you know, $1,500, some mortgages may be $2,000. That's a lot of money to come up with. So what I'm trying to gather information about is, you know, how many people are in that, how many families, how many people are in that situation, how many children. I also want to know how many children are going to school that are currently homeless today. You know, I want to know how many homeless shelters do we have that serve Apple Valley? And I also want to know, what I've been told is that the reason why we don't really see the homelessness in Dakota County or in Apple Valley is because when people are homeless in our area, they tend to they hide themselves in certain ways. So, like for example, in Apple Valley, we may find people who are homeless living at our transit hub. You know, like maybe if we drive up to the top layer of the transit hub, most people
Yeah.
don't park their cars. There may be an encampment up there. You know, I was told today that in Hastings that there are people who are living down by the river and down by the railroad tracks. So we have to, and we have those kinds of areas in Rosemont and stuff like that. So it's kind of, the other thing too is that when you're in your car and you're driving by, you're not seeing everything in your peripheral vision. So
Sure.
you're not really seeing the homelessness. You're not seeing what's really going on. It's only until you stop and get out of your car and start to take a look and walk around and really begin to understand what's going on. So for me, I want to understand where we are in Apple Valley. I want to understand where we are in Dakota County, but I also want to understand where we are in Apple Valley, because our city council has received CARES money. And right now, to the best of my understanding, I'm still doing further research on this as well, but I'm seeing that money has gone to businesses. to help shore up businesses in Apple Valley. Now,
Mm.
on the surface, that seems great because you don't want businesses to go out of business, right? But the other thing that I don't know from that is how many of those businesses employ residents of the city of Apple Valley. So and I'll just throw out a name, like Kohl's or Walmart. I don't know, or some of the restaurants that are around here. I don't know how many of the people that work there live in Apple Valley, because sometimes people live in neighboring areas. They may live in
Sure.
Rosemont, they may live in Lakeville, they may live in
Yeah.
Burnsville, may live in Egan, but they may come to work in one of those businesses. So it's great to keep those businesses open. We don't want to lose them. I'm not saying that we don't want to help them, but what about giving money to residents? One of the cities that I've seen, one of our sister cities like St. Paul, they created a public-private partnership where they have gone out and received money, additional money from foundations to give families who have children in a certain set number of schools in their school district who are experiencing potential homelessness due to COVID-19 and some other situations. They are going to shore them up with an additional grant every month for a certain amount of time, So that is something that we could do in Apple Valley. We could seek after, private funding to see if we can shore up our families in Apple Valley that are either on the verge or getting ready to experience homelessness, especially due to COVID-19.
And that leads me to one of the questions I was going to ask is, I'm curious about the numbers of the children that are attending schools right here in Apple Valley, and if the school is even aware that they are truly homeless, and what is that they can do to better serve this community.
I don't know that information specifically. I can say though, like in our sister city in St. Paul, they do know because they are transporting kids from shelters to school. So my guess is, I'm making a big assumption here. My guess is that if we have that situation in Apple Valley, the school district does know that, but that would be something else that I will be looking into. Again, that's why I want to know the number of how many children attending K-12 schools that are in the situation of homelessness. And Dakota County said that they are going to gather that information and get that to me.
Wonderful. It'll be interesting to see what those numbers are looking like. I know it almost seems like out here in the suburbs, it's almost like it's a stigma or something,
Yeah.
It's just sometimes, the elephant in the room, the subject that nobody wants to touch on. But these are lives, these are people, their lives matter, and they are valued no more or less than anybody else, but their needs are different. And if we can step up as a community, as a city, and better serve these families, it would be in everybody's best interest, to give them the support they need.
And you know what you said, it shouldn't be a stigma. It shouldn't be that we think that this only happens in the two major cities, either St. Paul or Minneapolis, because it happens everywhere. Many of us are only one paycheck away or one emergency away from a serious situation. And it shouldn't be that it's a stigma. My neighbors should be able to openly say that they need help.
That's right.
I look around and I know that a couple of my neighbors have lost their jobs due to COVID-19. I know that specifically, and they're living in beautiful homes. And I wonder to myself, where are they really at financially? Do they have a security net anywhere? Do they have a bank account somewhere? Maybe they do, but are they exhausting it?
Sure.
And so these are things that it shouldn't be a stigma. To be able to say that we are in trouble. It's not anyone's fault that they lost their job, and it shouldn't be a stigma, and the thing is too, is if we do have that tsunami that this nonprofit is thinking about, just think about that. 5 to 6 months mortgage or rent that people are behind, we could see a lot of places, a lot of homes going into foreclosure. We could see, and not only the people who own the homes, the people who are renting their homes, because if they can't collect the rent from the person that was renting the home from them or the apartment, what's going to happen there? So we need to really go into this eyes wide open. We need to remove the stigma. We need to
Yes.
really have an open conversation as a city about this and say, this could potentially impact our city. What do we do about it? How do we help each other as residents, as a community? How do we come together and put our arms around this and plan before it happens?
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing that happen. I know that you'll just be such a strong leader and a woman of compassion. I know that you are a woman of faith, a woman of prayer. You are a Christian woman.
Yes.
And speaking of talking about diversity there on the board, talk to me about the diversity within our community. I mean, here in this community, there are people of many different faiths or of no particular faith at all, but they all should have, you know, some say at the table, and they should all be well represented. And you have a heart for all, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, the interesting thing is that our demographic makeup is changing in our city.
Hmm.
And when I looked at the census for the past couple of years, it was showing me that in Apple Valley, probably about 20 years ago, I believe that we were maybe like 90%, 10% people of color. And then going forward, 10 years increase in that, we were 80-20. And then looks like we could be a 70-30 pretty soon. And the
Yeah.
projection is that it looks like we'll be 60-40 pretty soon, and then possibly
Hmm.
50-50. So as with every 10 years, and when we do the census, it's looking like we're becoming more and more ethnically and racially and demographically diverse in the city of Apple Valley. And so we really do want to figure out, how do we live together? If that's the case,
Yes.
how do we do that? How do we create a city where everyone thrives in it, you know, together? And how do
Hmm.
we embrace that diversity and not shy away or run away from it?
Hmm. Well, one of the taglines of here at Solminod is "Together we can, together we will." And I firmly believe that just across the board in a myriad of subject matters. Linda, you're such a strong leader. Can you talk to us a little bit more about your experience with mentorship and mentoring?
Yeah, so one of the things I really love to train up new leaders. You know, eventually one day I'm not going to be, you know, and that's one thing I think about, you know, if I become a city councilwoman, I don't want to think of that as my job forever until the day that I
Yeah,
pass on. I
yeah.
would love to mentor and train up other individuals so that they understand how to engage in public
Mhm.
policy in all ways and shapes and forms, from a school board to city council to Dakota County Commissioner. I've been helping people to understand how to understand the legislative process, you know, and how to understand who their elected officials are. So I really do enjoy helping people find their place and to find their voice in whatever that looks like. So yes, I love that. I love doing that. And
That's
I've
one of the
encouraged people to come and talk to me, you know, if they, you know, and I have a couple of people that I've been working with right now, but it's something that I've been thinking about doing more and more, where, you know, I can really have a cohort group of individuals that go through
Mhm.
together, and they can decide what they want to get involved in, and I can mentor them into that.
Mhm. Mhm. The sign of a true leader is raising up other young leaders that come behind you, you know, and alongside you, and of course in mentorship and in leadership, we're constantly learning from those who we mentor, you know. And can you tell us about who had been a key mentor in your life?
Well, you know, I think actually there's some people in the community that I met when I lived in St. Paul, like Billy Collins. He was a really strong. He used to be the director for the YWCA in St. Paul. He was
Okay.
someone that I consider to be a mentor for me. And then I've also had some women who've come alongside me as well. You know, I've had some women who were involved in the legislature. I think of Senator Jane Ranum. She was someone that mentored me and helped me to find my voice when I was on a really difficult advisory committee for the state, and I was the only parent voice there. And Senator Ranum really helped me to find my voice on that committee. So, so those are things that, Billy, being a male, Senator Ranum being a female, those were two people that really, really helped me to find my voice.
Well, you've had great mentors. You're greatly admired and respected here in the community. And we do encourage everybody to get out and vote, make an informed decision, an educated decision, vote your conscience. If our viewers want to know how they can get behind you and support your run, do you have a website or some contact information that you can share with us today?
Sure. If they go to www.electlindagarrettjohnson.com, so that's elect Linda, GarrettJohnson.com. If they go there, they'll find all kinds of information out there about how to get involved in the community conversations that I'm holding. If they'd like to get involved in a campaign, contact their individuals. I have a small but really mighty campaign team, and their information's out there as well. And then also they can find out the issues that I'm hoping to be able to address on the city council. So yes, that's how they can do that.
And I know that you're known for being an open book. So if folks wanted to submit a question or ask where you stood on a certain issue, right there on the website is their contact information then where they can submit an email and
Yes.
submit their question.
Yes, and also I have a Facebook page as well, Linda Garrett-Johnson for Apple Valley City Council. And I'm glad you asked that question because I am asking people on my Facebook page. I want to know the two questions that I have out there. I want to know, if we have the opportunity to do something more with Parks and Recreation, what would they like to see? And when it comes to city planning, what are some of the ideas that they have? So there are two questions like that I have on the Facebook page that I would like I really want to get input from people about.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up here. We have about 60 seconds left. Linda, is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers today, with your potential voters out there today before we sign off?
That I really want to, I really hope that I could get your vote, but it's not for me. I want to be there to represent you, and I want to be your voice. And I see us working in partnership together. I see myself as being a community builder, building community together with you. So I'm hoping that we can be on this journey together and do great things together as a community and as a city.
Wonderful. Well, Linda, I thank you so much for your time. All the best to you. I'm excited to see the numbers and see that all come in. And I have to concur. I mean, it's just typical of you having a servant's heart that this isn't about you. It's about using that platform to give back and to serve the community. And you are a community builder. You're a bridge builder. So I thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Solminod Show with Sonia. And we will continue to keep in touch. For those of you that have any more questions, if you'd like to submit here to me, you can go ahead and reach out to us. Go to solminod.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter. We have our YouTube channel there that you can subscribe to. And of course, on Facebook. You can reach out to me personally at Sonia, SONYA, at Solminod, SOLMINOD, with any questions, comments, or concerns that you have. And I'd be more than happy to pass that on to Linda Garrett-Johnson. So again, Linda, thank you so much. We'll say goodbye for now. Y'all stay blessed in whatever you put your hands to do. Until next time, ciao.